Hi, I'm Macaronic, lead developer RackForms, and in this video we're going to take a look at build 782. Now if you've never seen a build video like this before, essentially what we're going to talk about are the new features, of course, that are in this version of RackForms, but also if you've been updating some of the benefits, features, and things to watch for as you go about that updating process. So this update, it should be said, is interesting in that usually when we come out with an update to RackForms, it has a single build number. So we'd go from 779 to 780. In this particular case, we had so many features to add that we actually broke them out into 3 separate build numbers, and the final release is 782. And the reason why I say that is if you're on 779 right now, it's not that you've actually missed 780 and 781. We just rolled those all into 782. So let's talk a little bit about some of these features. So the big thing with build 780 is that back when RackForms was first written, there's a little bit of ambiguity between the different JavaScript libraries out there. So we didn't know which JavaScript libraries can become the de facto standard. And since then, we now can, I think, safely conclude that that's jQuery. The reason why that's important is because at that time, back in 2008, RackForms used a lot of prototype.js for things like AJAX queries and tooltips. That is now changing, and we're making a big push to replace all of our prototype library calls with jQuery. And again, that is probably most evident in the AJAX library. I should say, of course, that unless you write your own custom code, this change doesn't actually affect you. This is only for the things that RackForms is adding, for example, like the AJAX module right here, that may conflict with what you used to have as jQuery code. Now their AJAX module uses jQuery though, we should be able to eliminate a lot of those issues. What's nice about this feature though is that we do actually have an option here under AJAX library so that we can select which library we want to use. The legacy behavior is prototype, the new version is jQuery. It's what we default to, but if we want to, we can always go back to the old library. We also have a few other features which are simply no longer using a custom library, and a good example of that is our tooltip library. So again, the win here is that when you write custom code, JavaScript code in your forms, you don't have to worry about prototype or other libraries conflicting with that. You could just use your code as you normally would. There's a neat little feature here. SQL Plus always returns the last insert ID. So this actually isn't an option. This is just something that always happens. The basic idea being that when we have a complex form that uses an SQL Plus module to write to a database and then return the last insert ID for that call, we now save that to a session variable named SQL Plus retval. And this makes it really easy then to have a second form within a larger job that then uses that as a primary key for its insert. Speaking of SQL, we also have added an option here to our query module. We'll go ahead and add one here. The basic idea here is when we're doing complex queries, one of the things that we'll often do is use temp tables. And temp tables will then be used with several query module items. So we would have something, for example, like this. We'd have this table query, which then writes to a temp table, which is then used into a join for this query, which is then further used as a join for this item. RackForms used to close the connection to the database after each call. We no longer do that now. We actually have to explicitly say if we want the connection to be closed. The big benefit here, of course, is that we'll create fewer connections to the database, which should be a little bit more efficient. And of course, we can do things, again, like querying temp tables for complex queries. Perhaps the big headline feature here, though, is our ignore first parameter option for AJAX. It's a little bit complex to explain why this is a good thing, so we'll just show a quick demo here. The basic idea, though, is in older versions of RackForms, AJAX had to be driven from an existing form field, right? A select item or a text field. And then that value from the text field would be the first parameter of the AJAX call. This was convenient because we didn't have to really think about what that first parameter was, but it limited us to only using AJAX where we had an existing value. That's no longer true. We can now ignore the first parameter, so we can do things like this. I can hit my button and I call an AJAX query to populate this text field, or perhaps more realistically for this option, we'd have a place on our page where we want to replace content or add content, and we just hit the button right here and add, in this case, a name to this div element that we've targeted with our Ajax logic. So this is incredibly important for doing a lot of, making some air quotes here, real world work. And it's one of those things where if you need this functionality, just calling an Ajax query, you're instantly going to love this feature. Moving on to build 781 then, a couple new things here as well. We now have this 100% page width option. And this is really important because as we move into an era where mobile ready forms, responsive design as it's called, becomes more important, this is something that we want to make sure our forms can do as well. And so as a demonstration of that here, the new feature is when I select my page, and let me scroll up here, when I go under form style properties, I scroll down just a touch right here, you'll notice I have this all content uses 100% of available page width. Let me just uncheck this here to show you what this form looks like without that. You can see I have a table here, but the table width is limited to the form width. So when I resize my window, it doesn't change anything. However, when I check this box, all the content within the page, and indeed the page itself, spans to 100% of page width. So really handy feature there for building forms that need to work on all types of devices. We also have two major features. So the first is our new page info window. I actually really love this guy. Let me open up a job here that I've actually been working on for a long time. I kind of start this job and I leave it and I come back to it. I've been kind of going back and forth for a while. And so one of the things that will happen is when we leave a job or we maybe hand off a job to somebody, it's really nice to be able to quickly see what this job is doing. And that's what this feature allows us to do. So to see this, all I have to do is select a page and then click on its icon right here. And I now get the info window. The info window is broken in two areas. We have our page properties, and then we can edit some of those properties. So here then, for example, we can see how many items are on this page versus the total job. We see if the page is required, if it's outputting a PDF, if it's using a custom JavaScript library, a couple of things like that. We can also then, of course, change the properties of our page as well. So if I wanted to rename the page title, I could. I could rename the page itself, or I could even select what the submit route of the page is. And of course, this is important because a lot of times when we're building a job, we're going to want to go to a custom page when we hit submit. And this makes it much, much easier now to just say, I want to go to, for example, process.php when I submit this form, instead of having to click the page and then scroll down into its onSuccess property, right? It makes linking pages much easier. The other big feature is this export query result to comma delimited. So the basic idea here is if I have a job that has a query module, as this one does right here, we now have a new feature, if I scroll down here, that says export query result to comma delimited. And right now it has one option. This will be expanded in the future. Right now, though, that option is download prompt. The basic idea here is when I run this form, it is going to run that query as we define, and it's actually going to create a comma-separated value file for us. And then I can open this in Microsoft Excel or any other program that supports opening CSV files. Of course, the huge benefit here is that a lot of times when we're working in a production environment, human resources or the business side is going to want some data from our database. And this makes RackForms a much more powerful reporting tool, and then I can write a query and then quickly get that information out to a system that most people have in a business environment, which is Microsoft Excel. Finally, the last big feature here is our improved code editor. This is something I'm actually really excited about. Let me go back to this job that I had right here, our lettering creator job. So this job, as I mentioned before, is something I've been working on for a while, and part of that means that it has a lot of JavaScript code in it. So the idea is that we have this preview window right here, and when I select different options, colors, font styles, etc., we actually use GD, the GD library, to create essentially a preview of what we're working on. So it's JavaScript heavy, which means that I have a lot of code to this job. And so if I want to see that code for this page, traditionally what we've done is we've clicked on usually this link right here to open up the RackForms Advanced Code Editor. There's two main changes to the code editor here, and again, really excited about this. The first is that the code editor now actually supports autocomplete. So for example, if I have this table which I've created right here, I can now, for example, add a new th element right here. And when I select Control and then space, it'll autocomplete that field for me. What's nice about this is the autocomplete works for JavaScript and PHP as well. So it's very easy to get in there and use autocomplete to work on our code. The other big thing that we have, though, and this is, again, really excited about this, is the full screen mode. So if I click this button right here, it's actually going to take us into as the name describes, a full screen editing environment where we have a nice preview right here. So I can type in some text right here and we actually get a preview of what this code looks like. But, and this is really key, we also now can save our changes in preview right from within this view. Now, the reason why this is important is because a lot of times when we're working in RackForms, we're going to be building a job where we have, as we do here, a lot of JavaScript. And in order to see the changes of that JavaScript, usually what we would have had to have done is, if we're in this editor view right here, I would have made my change and then hit publish form, right? I'd have to kind of switch between these two views. Now with this new feature, we don't have to actually. I can write all my code right here and then just hit this guy, save changes in preview. RackForms then builds the job and actually, as we can see here, takes all the code and spits it out as it normally would. And of course, this is really nice because now I can focus here on my, in this case, JavaScript code, make it work exactly the way I want to, and then see the changes instantly with my preview right here. So really, really awesome new feature. So that's the basic look at build 782. Again, we're really excited about all these new features. If you have any questions or comments, please feel to contact us. Phone number is at the top of our website at rackforms.com, or we can be reached via email at info@rackforms.com. Thanks for your time.